TWS provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down on.
How is everybody doing today? It is week 6 of the NFL football season. My name is Shaun, and you guys see I'm here with my wonderful crew as we are every week. We got Marissa, Aidan, Max, and Chris, and we are here to break down this Sunday in NFL football, gambling, fantasy football, whatever you guys want, whatever you guys need. Feel free to ask questions in the comment section. And whatever you want, we're here. We got you. Find us on social media, TWSN, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also find us on YouTube. Subscribe right here. And then go to TWSN.net. We have a lot of great articles coming out every single day. And a lot of people doing really good, unique work. And you're looking at the future right here. A lot of young up-and-coming people. And come along for the ride. But with that said, let's dive right in. Right now, we have the Jaguars currently leading the Dolphins 17-14 in London. Just for a little bit of an update, Max, I'm a little sorry for you right there, buddy. But I have James Robinson in fantasy, so I'm also a little bit happy.
Is it bad that I'm starting him in fantasy too?
Then we could be slightly happy together. And
I guess.
Honestly, you said we talked about before the show. The injuries to the secondary are really a killer in this one. So it's just kind of what happens in those situations. But let's go into the games that are yet to come. We have the Green Bay Packers going up against the Chicago Bears, NFC North matchup. The Packers are 6-point favorites in this one. And I'm going to start my Sunday off with Aidan Marr. Aidan, give me the thoughts on the game here.
Yeah, so this is one of those games that could sneakily be competitive. It's at Soldier Field. It's a divisional matchup. The Packers are obviously without Jair Alexander. So things could get a little spicy. Like, Packers played a close game a week ago against the Cincinnati Bengals. So who knows, right? But I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers because I still don't buy this Bears team, even though I believe they're 3-2 right now, which is just surprising. I don't think they're a true 3-2 team. Chicago probably finishes under 500. Even with some of these injuries, I still really like the Packers today.
And Max, I'm going to hit you on this one. What are your thoughts here?
All right. So listen, my mortal lock train has been fun this year. Okay, we derailed week 1, but we have picked it up ever since then. Okay, we haven't lost one since. Hopefully this doesn't change this week. But I'm taking the Green Bay Packers as my mortal lock here. I think there's too many people out there that are overthinking this game, that are giving the Bears credit where, in my opinion, they don't really deserve it. Yeah, the defense has improved. Sure, the quarterback play has been okay, but you're beating a Raiders team that had a lot of controversy going into that week. So there's a lot to me, that was an outlier. I don't really look at the Bears as a really good football team. I think they're an improving football team, but I just don't think they're going to compete with the Green Bay Packers. And obviously they had a nail biter against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think they're going to want to come back with a statement win here. And I think that there's no better place to do it. In Soldier Field, Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is 9-3 all time against the Bears in Soldier Field. So if there's no better time and place for the Packers to have a statement win than to beat the Bears convincingly. So I'm going to take the Packers outright as my mortal lock of the week.
And Chris, when I'm looking at this -6 spread, I don't remember the over-under off the top of my head, but when I'm looking at this spread, right, because we feel really confident about the Packers. Those division games get close. We talk about it a lot in the show. Are you comfortable betting Packers in that situation?
I'm not too sure. I mean, the Packers are pretty banged up on the defense side of the ball. I believe Kevin King is out. Jair Alexander, I believe, is probably still out. So the Bears offense hasn't really shown you too much, even with Joseph Fields at QB. But this is a game where they could get some points on the board, just because that Packers defense is so banged up. Darius Smith also out too as well, big pass rusher for them. So I think I don't really want to bet this spread because I think the Bears could keep it close late with some late touchdowns against a banged up Packers defense. I do like the Packers to outright win, but I'm not too much in favor of that spread. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to easily go past this Bears defense. I believe they're not the same as they once were. But I think this Bears offense might be able to get some points on the board just because, like I said, that Packers defense has a lot of injuries on it. They're very thin, and I think Justin Fields his mobility is gonna give him some issues today.
No, I want the thing we have to look at in quarterback specific. I always say I like to compare quarterbacks within their division specifically. I know most of us do, and I know he's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but can he measure up against the pinnacle of the AFC North? No team has been more successful in recent memory than the Packers. Going up against the Packers, it's the biggest game the Bears play every year. The 2 times they face Green Bay, has the home crowd in front of them this time. We'll see him going into Lambeau later this year, but this is one of the early tests I'm really looking for in Justin Fields. But game number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Detroit Lions after failing to take advantage of 4 missed Mason Crosby field goals last week. Bengals are looking to try to get back into the win column. The Detroit Lions have been inching towards it, but yet to get in the win column. Aidan, what is the breakdown for you on today's game in that?
Well, look, Detroit has played just about every game close. They're at home. And the Bengals, Joe Burrow has that throat contusion. I know that's scaring some people off. But I'm still going to go with Cincinnati here in this game. I think they're going to torch the Lions secondary because their secondary is just really bad. And I look at the Bengals, even with Joe Burrow's throat contusion, I don't think that'll play too big of a factor. He's a very good quarterback. They've got a very good receiving core. I think they're going to be able to throw the ball all day on this Lions defense. And I don't think the Lions offense is going to be able to keep up.
And Marissa, I'm going to go to you since I haven't heard from you yet. What are you looking for today? Like, what do the Bengals need to do to make sure, because they've lost a couple heartbreakers, to make sure that they can get into the win column against Detroit?
Yeah, so what I'm looking for here is the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense has been really great so far this season, and if they can get to Jared Goff before he's able to really make any plays against a very not great receiving core outside of really TJ Hawkinson, if they can limit TJ Hawkinson from making any big plays down the field and get to Jared Goff in time, I think that they can keep them back away far enough so where they're not able to make a field goal, not able to make it a close game at the end. So as long as this defense can really do what they've done so far this season, in addition to this offense firing on all cylinders against a Detroit Lions defense that does have a ton of injuries, it's going to end in a Bengals win.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going off gut feeling here. I'm taking Detroit to win their first game of the season. In front of their home fans, they play teams close at home. Like specifically right now, the Baltimore games come into my head. The Baltimore game I keep thinking about. They were able to come back against the Lions in week 1. They just have this gut thing, man. They have this gut thing about them. Like they are an over 0-5 team that I can somehow say in my head has overachieved because they've been playing teams close that we've sat there every Sunday and said, yeah, they should lose by double digits when you look at them on paper. They're losing to the Ravens by 2. They're mounting these comebacks against a good 49ers team. The Vikings, they only lose by 2, and they had the game until late. They've had some extremely unlucky breaks. Eventually, things have to fall right for you at some point. And when I'm looking at these teams that honestly I consider superior to Cincinnati, teams that I think have superior talent, I do think the Bengals offense will get their way. I think Jamar Chase is already a top 20 receiver in football, legit one. The dude's a complete animal. I think he's going to get his. I also think the Lions have shown me glimpses. I think there's a unique weapon there in DeAndre Swift out of the backfield that I'm hoping they really use to its full advantage. Maybe you get TJ Hawkinson in usage a little bit more. But gut feeling here, Dan Campbell, after what I saw in that post-game press conference, there's no way those guys don't want to play for him more than ever. Football comes down to who wants it more. After what I saw in that post-game presser last week, after what I've seen the desperation for this team throughout the amount of heartbreaks that they've taken, eventually things have to turn right for you. Bengals are the better roster. Totally agree with that. But I think by the end of the year, maybe even a year after that, I think we're going to be looking at Dan Campbell as a better head coach than Zach Taylor. I think especially with just how passionate he is, how much the players love him. I think this Lions team is actually on their way to figuring things out. They're going towards an era of stability in the Dan Campbell era. And I think that starts with their first victory today. But with that said...
First of all, let me hop in. I agree with what you're saying. I totally agree. I just don't...
Cool, so you're changing your pick?
No. I agree. team of where you're at right now. I just don't think this is the week. I think Malik said it too. I see that the Lions have played teams close. They're going to get that first win soon. It's just not this week. And look, I understand. I just don't think this Bengals team is sleeping on the Lions. You've heard Zach Taylor talk about it all week. Listen, they're a good 0-5 team. Like, they played every week competitive. We can't sleep on these guys. But listen, I get what you're saying. I just don't think this will be the week for the Detroit Lions.
No, and look, there's no way I'm going to be able to convince you on that, and there's no way you're going to be able to convince me on it. It's like we're just going to be at a stalemate here, to be honest. But the way I see it is it has to come, right? It's 0-5 this week. And I don't think it's going to be 0-6 next week. I think the Lions will be able to – I think the Lions have some unique weapons. DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams healthy. I think they can run and control the clock. Jared Goff, I'm not a golf guy. He's had some good moments. And you just need to make that play. I really think the home field advantage is going to be something that kind of matters here. I know the Cincinnati-Detroit travel isn't overly a lot when you look at NFL mileage. But I think being from your home fans one more time, I think there's going to be a desperation and aura in the air. And a team with nothing to lose is always dangerous. The Bengals are a team that's competitive. They are a team that has something to gain. A team that has absolutely nothing to lose is one of the most dangerous things in football. And I think this week, that's what's going to come out. I think you're going to see a team with absolutely nothing to lose, a team that goes balls to the wall, a team that's literally willing to – this is a team that will take off a helmet and literally run right through a wall for Dan Campbell. I think you're going to see that this week, and I think it's going to make a difference. Could I be wrong? Of course. I'm wrong more than I'd like to admit. But gut feeling here, like I said, Bengals are the better roster, but the better roster doesn't always win in football. Sometimes it's just about heart, and I got a gut feeling the the Lions are going to come in with a little bit more heart and just enough to take a victory this Sunday. Anything you'd like to say to that, Aidan?
No, I can respect it. Like,
No, you're right. Like I said, better. I think the Bengals are the better roster. I get that the Bengals love their coach. I just think it's coming down to desperation and a lot of heartbreak. I think the 0-5.
Let me tell you guys what's going to happen in this game. The Bengals will win the football game, but the Lions will cover. It's going to be a very, very competitive football game. I think both teams are going to get theirs. I expect Joe Burrow to do his thing. I think people are kind of overplaying the severity of the injury. But I do think that the Lions have shown the capability of making it a competitive football game. I agree with all the points that you, Shaun and Aidan, were pointing at with regard to their trajectory. I think they're bound to win a game soon. But again, I agree more so with Aidan. I don't think it's this week. I think the Bengals are a better football team altogether. But I do expect the Lions to cover. I believe the line last time I checked was roughly 4.5. That's exactly where I think the Lions will lie. So I think the Lions will cover, but the Bengals will win.
Okay, sounds good to me. #WhoDay or whatever it is on Twitter for the Bengals. But let's go to the next game. We have the Houston Texans going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Divisional matchup. Colts are 10.5-point favorites, and rightly so because holy crap are the Texans a bad football team. They've actually overachieved in my opinion. But like it's after the collapse against the Patriots last week, even when they look good for a half, they can't put it together for 4 quarters. So, Chris, I guess looking at this game, what are the takeaways for you, mainly the 10.5-point spread?
Mainly, I love Texans 10.5 here. I really think this is going to be a close game. I don't see the Colts running away with this thing. I really do not see the Colts as a good football team this year. I think there's playing down their defense. Their secondary is beat up. I don't like their secondary. Their offense, I don't know how Carson Wentz is going to do. Can he stay healthy? Is he going to be able to lead this offense? They get T.Y. Hilton back this week. How big of a factor will that play? It looks like they're relying on Jonathan Taylor mostly. Getting Marlon Mack involved a little bit now, as they're probably looking for a trade partner for him. But I think this Texans team is like a Lions team. On paper, they don't have a great roster, but they're just fighting, and they're going to fight for everything they have. Like we said last week, Texans they did have a bad collapse against the Patriots last week, but they looked really good. Davis Mills moved the ball for at least first half of the game. Only had a couple mistakes in the second half that took him out of the game. Defense really kept the Patriots in check most of the way. Picked up some timely turnovers when they needed them. I think the Texans is going to keep this game close. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see an upset here. I would not be surprised to see the Texans walk away with a win. I have the Colts winning this game outright, but I do think the Texans plus 10.5 is a good bet here. I think they're going to keep the game close. They have a good offense. They have a really underrated offense. They have plenty of running backs to go to. Davis Mills has been competent in Tyler Taylor's been showing that he can be number receiver in the league. Chris Conley has come on. They have a couple other guys that have come on and played some decent football. And their defense isn't terrible. They get the job done when they need to. They will give up points, but they have a bend don't break attitude. I feel like they can make teams settle for field goals as well. But I do like the Texans covering this one.
Okay, and then Max, I'm going to go to you right here for the next game. I mean, we could keep talking about that Texans-Colts game, but I think we all pretty much stand in the same spot right there. So for the Rams against the New York Giants, next game we have here. Rams -7.5. Giants coming very banged up team coming to this one, and the lesser team coming into this one. I guess, is there a chance the Giants pull off an upset at home in front of their home fans today?
You can never say never in the NFL. I mean, obviously, I've seen crazier things happen, but I would say it's incredibly unlikely. I think the Rams, in my opinion, are, if not the best, the second best team in the NFL. I think the Giants, without Saquon Barkley, that's a huge blow. Obviously, I think Kenny Golladay is also in line to not play, and they have a couple other inactives on both sides of the field. So, as much as I think they can maybe make this competitive, I don't even know about that, to be honest with you. I just love the Rams here. I think I even like them at 7.5, to be honest with you. I think they'll win, and I think they'll win convincingly. I would say if I had to give a prediction, I'd give it maybe 2-score game for the Rams.
I don't disagree. The Giants just coming in incredibly banged up. Like you said, Galladay's coming in injured. Even Daniel Jones was through the concussion protocol this week. And honestly, I'm worried about him coming into this game, right? You're putting Aaron Donald against a team that literally has no interior offensive line. There's a chance he gets 3 sacks today. He's going to wreak havoc. Devontae Booker is going to be the starting running back. It's going to be a rough day for him. Like, the Giants' offense, Garrett hasn't been great this year play calling, especially when things get tighter in the red zone. The Giants are going to have to force a Matthew Stafford turnover, which they haven't intercepted a ball all year. They've been inopportune in that area. And then Kadarius Toney's going to have to get 140 yards today. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, he's going to have to get 140 yards. He's going to have to probably get 50, 60 after the catch and get in the end zone himself. And they might even have him try to throw it again. It's good for the Giants to win this week. It's going to have to be Kadarius Toney and Evan Ingram really carrying the load on the offense, and a rookie wide receiver who might be matched up against Jalen Ramsey, depending on how the Rams play this one, and a tight end who's kind of known for his inefficiencies as a player. It's not a good look at all. It's not something you can bet on. And honestly, Isabel's 100% right. Toney can't punch anybody today. I would really like it if Kadarius Toney didn't throw any swings today. But Aidan, I'm going to go to you right here. So I guess what would the Giants have to do in your mind? I know I touched on Toney, I touched on Ingram, but what would the Giants have to do to even cover the men in 7.5 point spread?
Pretty much everything in their power. I mean, I agree with Max entirely. This is should be a blowout game for the Los Angeles Rams. They're one of the best teams in football. I know they're on the road, but look, this Giants team just coming in banged up. I don't really see a way they do cover, to be completely honest with you. I just think it's going to take everything in their power. You're going to have to get that turnover on Matt Stafford, because if you don't get any turnovers, the Rams are just going to go on a roll. You got to try to stop their momentum a little bit, give yourself good field position to kind of make up for those lack of weapons and the lack of what you've got offensively going up against a very good Rams defense. As I said, again, it's just really going to take everything in their power. It's also going to take just a couple misfortunes from the Rams, a couple, bounces to go the Giants' way in this one.
Okay, with that said, let's go on to our next game. The Kansas City Chiefs are 6.5 point favorites going to FedEx Field to take on the Washington football team. It is Shaun Taylor's retirement day today. Obviously, rest in peace. His thoughts are always with us. Would have been one of the greatest safeties to ever play this game had tragedy not struck. But Marissa, I'm going to go to you right here. I guess we're looking at the line. We get why the Chiefs are the obvious favorite, especially with the regression of the Washington defense this year. But does the emotional factor have anything should we be taking that into context?
I don't think so, really. I mean, he was a great player, but with how this Washington team has been playing this year, they look very unmotivated, and I'm not sure what is going to be able to get them at the point of where they're really motivated. Both defenses have looked completely horrible, in my opinion. They have both given up over 2,000 yards so far this season, and it's going to be a shootout, I think. I think it's going to be really close just because of how bad the defenses have performed. Probably a close game more than what people are thinking. It's going to really depend on if Washington can capitalize on Mahomes' mistakes that he's been frequently making so far this season. But you think of it, there's a lot of pressure on Mahomes to put 30-plus points up per game because the defense is giving up exactly that much. And I think you're starting to see it really, really get to Mahomes. and he's going to have to start taking what the defense is giving him. And I think this is really a good defense to start learning how to take what the defense is giving you and get those short passes and rely on your receivers to make up those yards. So I think Kansas City wins this, but it's going to be a lot closer than what people expect.
Okay, and now, Chris, I'm going to go to you right here. You're looking at the 6.5-point spread. I guess, do you agree with Marissa that that's something that you want to stay away from?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, just because, like I said, this Chiefs defense just can't get a stop. And I think this Washington offense, I believe they have Terry McLaurin today. They can move the ball well. They can get the ball downfield, get some deep passes. They got a good running back in me, or Antonio Gibson who's going to play, J.D. McKissick. So I do think they could very well get a lot of points on the board today, even with the Chiefs, because I just don't know if this Chiefs defense is going to be able to get a stop, and it's going to really come down to maybe if Patrick Mahomes gets the ball in his hands last. I don't really want to touch this, but I think I agree with this. It's probably going to be a shootout. I believe the over, this whole the game is at like 54. I think you could bet the over on that. I think both teams are going to end up scoring. On paper, when you look at the talent, Washington has the better defense. They just haven't showed up this year. So if Washington can get that timely stop on Mahomes, if Mahomes makes a mistake and they can capitalize on it, I don't think his defense is going to be there to help him get out of those situations like they have in the past.
And for me, as weird as it sounds, like one of the things I'm looking at here is fan attendance. Like I kind of disagree with Marissa. I do think you have to kind of take into account the overall emotion of the day, especially with kind of like, even if the emotion is somewhat distressed because of the way that the whole Shaun Taylor retirement ceremony, a lot of the Bruce Allen thing is as a distraction. But like, I think you have to take that into account somewhat if there's a crowd, right? If there's a crowd that's really like that looked at Shaun Taylor as their own. But like, I'm looking at Ticketmaster right now. You could get tickets fairly cheap. It's kind of a shame, to be honest. Like, I just read that Shaun Taylor's brother didn't know about the ceremony until this week. If there was a crowd, I would be saying, hey, like, we need to take this into account. But it doesn't look like the stadium's going to be overly packed for one of the greatest safeties of the modern generation. And it's kind of it's a huge shame, but it should be an advantage for this game. And it's not, and that's a tragedy within itself once again. And then you're looking at this with Mahomes, the guy who's on a mission. I'm trying not to bet against Patrick Mahomes because you can turn the ball over as much as you want, and we can give you a pass as talented as you are. But the reality is Patrick Mahomes has maybe been the fourth best quarterback in the NFL this season, maybe even fifth. I'll take Rodgers this season, Lamar this season, Kyler this season, Josh Allen this season. You could even probably throw one or two more guys. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been performing like a top 5 quarterback. He hasn't been performing like a guy I'd be willing to pay $500 million. And the reason isn't that just he's turning over the ball. It's that the turnovers he's making are directly leading to losses. The Baltimore game is the biggest example of that in my mind. The turnovers can't lead directly to losses. And when they start doing that, it's an issue that needs to be fixed. Patrick Mahomes, you can make all the dumb mistakes you want. As long as I can't directly correlate it to the loss. And as long as they keep directly correlating, I'm not going to be looking at him as a potential MVP guy this season, a potential anything. If the season were to end today, he's not an all-pro, which you're paying him to be an all-pro, or at least in the conversation. And he definitely hasn't been a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the league. And that's how you're paying him in my mind. He hasn't been performing at that level. And I would like to see that change today. Like Marissa said, Washington football team defense, been unmotivated. Hasn't been the defense we expected them to be. We expected that to be a top 5 unit. Been anything but. So if Patrick Mahomes is going to prove me wrong, if he's going to make me eat my words, I'd like it to start at around 1:05 p.m. when his offense takes the field for the first time today, after whatever commercial break comes before the opening kick. But now that we get past that game, let's go to my favorite 2-3 team in all of football, the Minnesota Vikings. Looked kind of underwhelming against Detroit last week. They go on to take the Carolina Panthers, in which should, in my opinion, be a really competitive game. I'm looking forward to that one specifically. But, Max, I'm going to start this one off with you. Minnesota, 2-3. Panthers looking after a loss last week, looking to kind of make a statement once again. What are your thoughts right here?
I'll be honest with you. I believe I took the Panthers for the pick'em, the pick'em that we're doing on our social media. Gut feeling, I have to flip on that pick. I like the Vikings today. I think the Carolina Panthers are trending down. I think without McCaffrey for another 3 games, they're going to have to force Sam Darnold to throw the football. And you know what happens when Sam Darnold is forced to throw the football. Interceptions are bound to happen. That protection is not good enough for him. I think the defense will do their thing against the Vikings. I think the defense will hold their own, but I mean, look, Dalvin Cook is back. I think Kirk Cousins has been game managing pretty well this year. And I don't know. I think it's a tale of two teams trending in opposite directions. I just like the Vikings' gut feeling.
I don't disagree. For me, this is going to kind of be the Carolina Panthers gut check moment for me. If the Panthers can win this game, if they can pull it out, I'm going to be like, okay, this is a team that can maybe compete for a wild card spot, can keep on going, can build off it. But if they lose today, this is a decent Minnesota football team. When you're at home, you have to be able to beat decent football teams. You have to be able to do that every week, week in, week out. Be able to compete hard, be able to play. And this is the type of game the Carolina Panthers brought in Sam Darnold for. And the offseason, Matt Rule sat there. They had Teddy Bridgewater, and they were like, look, we lost 7, 8 games by one possession where Teddy had the ball and couldn't go win us the game. Sam Darnold was showing flashes in his first 3 years in New York. He was showing flashes in those early games. Now you need him to be able to elevate that team like good quarterbacks do, take them to that next level, and beat a decent opponent in front of your home fans. It's a basic requirement of being a starting quarterback in the NFL. You have to be able to elevate your team to get them a win or two that they maybe shouldn't have, and that's going to be that moment for me today with Sam Darnold. But Aidan, do you think Darnold can pull off that moment in your mind?
I think he's capable of it. As you said, we've seen the flashes. And that's really the X factor in this game for the Panthers. I think there's 2 X factors. How well do the Vikings run the football? And for the Panthers, it's what is Sam Darnold doing? Is Sam Darnold having one of these really good games, one of the highs on this roller coaster? Because if that's the case, well, the Panthers, they've got a good shot at winning this football game. But if he's turning the ball over 1, 2, 3 too many times, they're going to be in trouble. And this is one of, if not the toughest game to pick of the week. But that's really the X factor. I think this is going to be a big game for Sam Darnold because he's struggled recently, and he needs to really limit the turnovers and make those flashes more of a consistency.
So I guess, Aidan, if you don't mind me asking, what is the pick for you this week?
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. But as I said, this is one of, if not the toughest game to pick on the whole entire week.
No, this is one of the games I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And Aidan, I want to ask you a follow-up. We've been waiting. Mike Zimmer's been in Minnesota for a long time. We've been waiting. Like, he's had those moments. He had that golden generation there. But every now and then the sun sets. I've always said when you're mediocre for so long, things kind of get stale. Things kind of get tired. Do you think Mike Zimmer should maybe be put on the hot seat if this team starts 2-4?
Hot seat, I think that's a bit strong, but if they listen, I think it has to at least be discussed that the hot seat is coming from Mike Zimmer. I just felt like last season, obviously with all the injuries, we were going to cut him some slack, but it was a bit disappointing. This team they're not creative enough offensively. I think you need some more of that creativity. He's obviously getting older. 2-4, listen, you're losing to a good Panthers team. I'm going to assume the Panthers play well if they beat the Vikings today. I'm not ready to say hot seat, but you have to start having that discussion of at least potential hot seat for Mike Zimmer.
Okay, and let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Baltimore Ravens. Again, should be another good game. Chargers are 2.5-point underdogs on the road, traveling to the East Coast. And Marissa, I'm going to start this one off with you. Potential game of the week right here. What are the thoughts?
This is going to be the game of the week because you have a great quarterback in Lamar Jackson and another great quarterback in Justin Herbert that are going to completely just light it up the field. Pretty much going to be playing backyard football. Ravens were known for being a run-heavy team, and I like how Lamar has shown his doubters wrong that he can run the ball and pass the ball. So I think that's going to be an important aspect in this game, especially since the Chargers have given up 788 rushing yards so far this season. So if the Baltimore Ravens can establish that run-pass balance early on, they're going to be able to keep it close. But what I'm also looking at here is the fact that the Baltimore Ravens defense has missed 45 tackles, and they're going to be going up against the likes of Mike Williams, Austin Eckler,
Keenan Allen. There's a talented offense right there.
Yeah, so if they can force those missed tackles that the Ravens have been able to really not capitalize on, I'm giving it to the Chargers in this one just because they have a well-rounded team to slow down the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, Marissa, could you mind if I ask you a quick follow-up? So
Go ahead.
if the Chargers win this game, is this the statement game where we look at them and say, yeah, they're a legit contender to come out of the AFC?
Yes, it is. I think if they can win this game, they are going to be the second best team in the AFC, followed by the Bills. it's going to be, as of right now, my prediction for the AFC Championship game is the Bills and the Chargers.
Okay, and we have a question here from my man Hunter Moore's been saying a lot of stuff in the comment section today. Also, unique YouTube profile photo, really cute picture if that's of you, man. But looking at Mike Williams this year, the way he's produced, just you always start Mike Williams, man. Like him and oh my gosh, I blanked on Keenan Allen for a second too. Him and Keenan Allen, it's one of the top 3 or 4 receiving duos in all of football. Mike Williams is a legit touchdown threat each time he touches the ball. And it wouldn't shock me if you saw Marlon Humphrey more on Keenan Allen today because of the damage he does out of the slot and how good Keenan Allen is out of the slot. And Marlon Humphrey is more than capable kicking inside. But Mike Williams, he's going to get his. They can't cover both him and Allen. And Mike Williams is one of the top 50-50 contested catch receivers in football. Herbert loves him. I'd start Mike Williams today. Aidan, do you agree with me on that one?
I'd be interested to hear who else he has, though, because listen, Mike Williams has been fantastic to start the season. He really only had one dud week, but he hasn't practiced all week due to that knee injury, and that scares me a little bit. So I'm interested to hear who else he has at receiver, because I still, it's tough to sit Mike Williams at this point, but if he has good options, I might be okay with it. Just as
Okay, Hunter, if you want to comment, I'm a Williams fan. I'd start him, but it depend on your options. Let us know, man. Actually, he is Adam Thielen and T. Higgins. I don't know how that makes you feel. Adam Thielen, we just talked about that game going up against the Carolina Panthers secondary, and T. Higgins going up against the Lions secondary.
Yeah, I'd play T. Higgins and Mike Williams then.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one. Or I don't know who your flux options are at running back. I'd actually just play all 3, to be honest. I'd run all 3. Thank you, Hunter, for the question. Anybody else watching has any more questions, any fantasy football questions, feel free to drop them. But I guess continuing on with this Chargers-Ravens game, Chris, what are the thoughts here? -2.5 should be a shootout, though. What are you thinking?
In my opinion, I think we're not going to see Lamar Jackson pass the ball like he did last week, only because I think he's going to be able to run the ball at will in this game. I think the Chargers aren't going to force him to pass like he's been forced to pass last week. I think the read option is going to be open. The rollout's going to be open. Latavius Murray might get going. Whoever else they throw running back's going to get going. Chargers just haven't done well with the run this year, like Marissa said. So I don't see another big passing game from Lamar Jackson just because I don't think he'll be forced to. I do think it'll be high scoring, but I think score might not be as high just because I think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to take some time off the clock with all these runs he's going to have. I don't think it's going to be a quick passing game from the Ravens like we saw last week. Chargers going to be able to score at will, I think. One guy I like in this game is Jared Cook. He should be fairly cheap in fantasy and daily fantasy for tight ends. For the Chargers, the Ravens give up a lot of points, a lot of receptions, and a lot of yards to tight ends so far this year. So I think Jared Cook is a great option. I expect him to get going in this game. He said Justin Herbert has really been targeting him the past couple weeks, so I expect another big game from him. I love Mike Williams. I have him in both my fantasy teams. Like I say, he was being up, but he is healthy going in this game. They have listed him as fully healthy. He's good to go. But I do think Jared Cook's going to get some good touches. I do expect a high scoring game. I think the Ravens will still score enough. If I had to favor one team, I think I would favor the Chargers. I think their offense is just amazing. They have a high power offense, and I think the Ravens defense is going to be able to get enough stops.
Okay, Aidan, I know I already hit on you about the Mike Williams part of the conversation, but I guess just overall thoughts on this game. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers in this one. The Baltimore Ravens, look, they've kind of surprised me a little bit so far this season. They've been a little better than I thought they'd be. I didn't expect their record to look like this. I figured with all the injuries, I didn't think the Ravens, I honestly had them missing the playoffs, but they've been that scrappy team that stays in games. They win close ones, but I tweeted it last week. When is this going to catch up with Baltimore? Because every week we see them go into these overtime games, these close games. It's a lot on, a team that's kind of lacking a little bit of depth due to all these injuries. And now they're coming in on a short week facing this Chargers team that just played an exhausting game in their own right. But I'm wondering when this is going to catch up for Baltimore. They're going to be a good competitive team regardless. But I think this week we see the better team win, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'll be honest with you guys, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was kind of thinking about it even more now. This is a trap game for the Chargers, in my opinion, because I think the Chargers are undoubtedly the better football team, I think, right now. I think they've been on the up and up. But Baltimore is a really tough place to play for most teams. And I respect the way that Lamar Jackson's been just balling out. In my opinion, he might be the front runner for MVP right now, just the way he's been playing. And I don't know. I just think that the Chargers defense, they've been okay this year. They've been, especially in the secondary. But where you have to worry about is the run game, especially coming from Lamar Jackson. And I don't know if I trust those linebackers to get those stops. And look, I think it'll be a shootout. I think it'll be entertaining. But I'm going to have to go Baltimore here because of the home field factor, and I just think it's a trap game.
I also want to point out one thing. There's a narrative that I'm waiting to go around Justin Herbert that hasn't come up yet. And if you guys remember last year when Herbert first started, he would get into a lot of close games. And I don't know if you guys ever remember, Chargers blew a lot of games late, and Herbert had a lot of turnovers in those situations. Same thing happened in the Dallas game this year. Remember the late game turnover when they played Dallas? I need to see if Justin Herbert's clutch. I don't know if he's legitimately clutch. I know Lamar can come up big. I know he can break that 30-yard run up. I know he's willing to make that deep pass. He has that gut check moment. Rashad Bateman, he's now coming back this week. He's now got someone else who could stretch the field. But you look at Herbert's stats, right? His first half quarterback rating, looking at Pro Football Reference, 110.2. Second half, a mediocre 89.6. That's a pretty big 21-point drop-off. Even I'm looking at the fourth quarter, it's 89.7 and 89.4 in the third. 10 of his 13 career interceptions in the second half. That's what I'm looking at right now. For me, I need to see if Justin Herbert's legitimately clutch or not. I think he's maybe the most talented thrower of the football, not named Patrick Mahomes, in this entire league. Hell, you could even argue he does things that only Mahomes maybe is the only other person to do. He's put some unleashed some dots that I only dream about, things that Madden can't even design. He does some absolutely astronomical things with a football in his hand when he releases it. But one of the issues we had with him at college was, does he have that mentality? Does he have that clutch instinct? They were very simple in college, and people were like, oh, can he make the reads? I don't care if he can make the reads because he throws a ball hard enough that he gets away with 95% of the mistakes he makes. But when the game gets tighter, when the moment gets big, is Justin Herbert that guy that can elevate a team? Like I just said, 10 career interceptions in the second half. All of his stats, statistically, there's a big drop-off right there. It's something that we don't talk about when talking about Justin Herbert because we're just so mesmerized by the way he sprays the ball all over the field. But that only gets you so far. When you're playing a legitimately good team in Baltimore, cross-country, on the road, Herbert's going to have to do that not for first and second quarter, not until there's 8 minutes left in the third quarter, for all four quarters. And that's the big question for me. I agree with Max. You ask anybody who knows me, Lamar was my preseason MVP. And I'm going to trust in my preseason MVP to get things done today. An extra element of Rashad Bateman is going to help too. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens at home in what should be. Honestly, there's an over-under of 51. I would be betting the over every day of the week. Chris, I don't know if you agree with me with that, but this is going to be a hell of a game, and I'm taking Baltimore to come out one more time in a close one. Chris, the over-under, though, 51. Do you agree with me on that? I would bet.
Yeah, I definitely think the over. It seems a bit low for this game with two good offenses. I expected it to be a little bit higher, so 51. I would definitely hit the over.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that when I just double-checked it, too. I was going to ask you before, and I literally double-checked it because it just felt too low almost. But moving on, we have the Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Browns. And, man, that's another really good game. We got some really good matchups this week. Arizona, Cleveland 3.5-point favorites at home. And, Aidan, I'm going to start with you right here. What's the keys here? Can Arizona move to 6-0? Like, what are the thoughts?
Can they? Sure. I think they can. I just don't think they will, is my main point. Look, the Browns, they're without Nick Chubb in this game, but I still believe in Kareem Hunt, like, to carry that load. He can absolutely be an RB1, especially in this system behind that offensive line. And, look, I know Cleveland right now, Baker Mayfield has struggled with that injury. But the secondary isn't great, and I know Arizona can get some pressure, but I do see this passing attack for the Browns stepping up a little bit in this game. But defensively, I think is the key for the Browns. Arizona has an explosive offense. They just added Zach Ertz. He can't play this week, but still, you've got D-Hop, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, A.J. Green. They like to spread it out 4 wide. And sometimes they'll even run the ball to James Conner just between the tackles. Well, they spread out the box and they lighten it up because they got 4 receivers out there. This offense is dynamic. but this Browns defense is almost, you can even argue just as good. So I think the key is going to be how can maybe Cleveland get that turnover, and then can Baker Mayfield step up with a big throw or two? And I believe they can at home. I don't see the Cardinals moving on to 6-0, but they absolutely could.
And Chris, I'm going to hit you once again real quick. Are you agreeing with Aidan, or do you think the Cardinals walk out of Cleveland 6-0 today?
I'm going my moral lock here. I had trouble last week. Panthers did not hold on to the win. They blew it late, went to 2-3 on the season. This week I'm going Browns money line -170. I think the Browns are going to have this game. We got to look what the Cardinals what they're going through right now. Cliff Kingsbury, their head coach and play caller, he's out with COVID. He's not going to be there. They have other coaches out with COVID as well. It's a huge loss. I believe Chandler Jones is also going to be out of this game as well. So that's your best pass rusher. We'll see if J.J. Watt can get some pressure, but I think losing your head coach, especially your play caller, is a huge loss in the NFL. So not having Kingsbury there is gonna be real tough for them. And like I said, I think you do have Baker Mayfield. It seems like he's playing through an injury right now. Seems like it's gonna be a tough one for him to get through. But like I said, I like Kareem Hunt. Also like Demetric Felton. I think Demetric Felton's gonna get involved. They've used him a little bit here and there. I liked him coming out of college. I think they're definitely gonna get him. They like to run 2 running back sets, so I think he's gonna get involved and get some maybe not some rushes, but maybe get involved in the passing game. I think that's where he excels in. So I expect some plays for him there. But I think the Browns are at home. The Cardinals are making this road trip. Don't have their coach. Don't have Chandler Jones. Don't have other coaches. It's just going to be a weird environment for the Cardinals to go through. And I think the Browns are going to win this game outright.
No, I completely agree. And I think one of the play caller this week is going to be the offensive line coach and run game coordinator, Shaun Kugler, I think his name is. That's what you're going to have to look at this week. Can he develop the same game plan? Can he make those big 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6? Can he dial up the right plays? You have the most diverse receiving attack in all of football. And now Zach Ertz isn't going to be there this week, but next week you're adding Zach Ertz in that, who maybe past his best years, but still more than a solid tight end in my opinion. But can they use Rondale Moore in the right ways? Can Shaun Kugler dial up those mismatches? I don't know. It's the biggest question mark, and it's going to be the make or break of this game. But it's not something I feel confident picking either. It's not something I feel any of us should feel confident picking. I'll be honest. If Chandler Jones is healthy, if Kingsbury doesn't have COVID issues, I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals to win this game. But with all that said, I can't do it, and I'm taking the Cleveland Browns to win at home in the dog pound. Now, going to an AFC West matchup. John Gruden is out. Interim head coach in. For his first game, it's Ron Bisaccia is his name, I believe. I know last name's Bisaccia, blanking on the first name. But they're going into Denver. Denver's 4.5-point favorites. And I guess, Max, with all the controversy this week, can you be mentally prepared to play a game on Sunday?
Normally I'd say it's a fair question, but I do think in this case the Raiders are. I think the Raiders are going to win this football game. I think, they want to take the attention away from the coaches and they want to bring it back to the actual production on the field. And I think that you're going to see that today. I think even take the controversy aside, I think the Raiders are a better football team than the Denver Broncos. I expect them to score points, even though it is a respectable defense. You know what? I'm going to give one shout out to a player. I think it's going to be a Darren Waller bounce back game. I think he's going to dominate and eat today. And I think that we're just going to see the Raiders prove to everyone that they are a pretty decent football team. And they're going to try to disassociate themselves with the John Gruden nonsense. So I think, there's no better way of doing that than winning a football game.
And I guess, Marissa, I'm going to kick it up to you right here. What are your thoughts on this one? Any chance you think the Broncos also win this one?
I think the Broncos do win it because we saw last week that the Bears with their their run scheme and then their dual quarterback ability with Justin Fields is a lot similar to what they have with Teddy Bridgewater, and it gave the Raiders a lot of problems last week. They really had no answer for it, and I think you're going to see the inconsistencies this week really lead up to not having a solid week of practice because they had this on their minds. There was players taking days off because of what was happening, and they needed to regroup. So I think you're going to find them a little bit out of a rhythm. Going to Denver, it's never a great situation to play in because it is mile high. and I think you're going to see Denver really be able to capitalize this week. I think the Raiders can keep it close. I think they're going to have heart. I think they're going to have fight, but I got to get the edge to the Broncos here.
Okay, and Aidan, I'm going to kick this one to you as well. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, yeah, I mean, Justin Fields did his athleticism, did his legs give them some trouble last week, sure, but I don't think it was like a huge weakness of theirs. It did give them some trouble, sure, but that was in a week with all the controversy. I don't think they were truly all in it. And now this week, Teddy Bridgewater is not as much of a threat with his legs as Justin Fields is. Justin Fields is just more of a dynamic athlete, so I'm not too concerned by that. And I honestly have the Raiders winning as well. I'm going to agree with Max here. Rich Bisaccia, their interim head coach. I typically side with the interim head coach in their first game. And I do like this matchup for the Broncos. They're at home as well. If John Gruden was still here and this was just like a normal game, I'd probably take Denver. But I typically side with that interim head coach. There's just something there. There's that typical spark. There's some unpredictability because we've never seen these guys at the helm before. It's tough to game plan for. So as much as this is kind of one of my upset picks of the week going against the Tide, I am going to go with the Raiders here.
Okay, I'll be honest. I'm going Denver. I'm agreeing with Marissa. I've never seen the guy coach an actual game before, and I don't like betting on things I really don't know or don't feel fully confident in. He's never been more than a special teams coordinator in the NFL. And look, he's been around a long time, so there's a chance he's seen a lot of head coaches in his day. So there's a chance. I think this is going to be a good game. Honestly, 4.5-point spread. I think the Raiders at least cover that. The Broncos are 4.5-point favorites. Denver has a really good kicker in Brandon McManus. Special teams plays a factor sometimes. I'm expecting maybe a field goal game, something like that. But moving on to another game, we have the Dallas Cowboys traveling up to Gillette Stadium to take on the New England Patriots. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites. And Aidan, not too often in the Bill Belichick era have we seen the Patriots not favored on their home field. Are we starting to get to a point where maybe we're getting slightly disrespectful towards Mac Jones and company?
No. The Patriots are 0-3 at home. They're going to be 0-4 after this game. We're not winning. Like the Cowboys, this is going to be, I said it, I tweeted it maybe yesterday or 2 days ago. The Cowboys are one of, if not the toughest offense to game plan for. You have a rushing attack and a passing attack that's potent, and they just have so much talent just spread all over. Like their offensive line's very good. They've got a top 10 quarterback. They've got a two-headed monster in the backfield with Zeke and Tony Pollard. They've got plenty of talent at wide receiver. It's crazy. And then defensively, they've stepped up this year. They have, I believe, 13 turnovers in the first 5 games. Is that a sustainable number? No, but they're still, they're playing fairly well. Now, Trayvon Diggs, I'm still not sure on what his status is. They may have said it this morning, and I just haven't seen it yet, but he was banged up throughout practice so far this week. But even without him, as much as they might be a little vulnerable in the passing game, I do expect Mac Jones to have a little bit of success today. The Patriots, if they want any shot at winning this game, you have to try to make that Cowboys offense one-dimensional. You're going to be bend, don't break. You're going to give up yards. Just show up in the red zone. Show up on third down. And the Patriots can't turn the ball over in this one. You have to hope that the Cowboys make a mistake or two more than you do. Because if you turn the ball over and give them extra opportunities, they're going to capitalize. So the Patriots, again, that bend, don't break team. You can't let the Cowboys get up ahead early and make this a shootout. You've got to kind of control clock a little bit, win with field position, and try not to force some turnovers, but don't turn the ball over at all. The Patriots are going to be in trouble in this one, though. Cowboys will win.
Yeah, this is one of the – I said it a couple weeks ago where I said Tom Brady, the Patriots were going to keep it close. I ended up saying the Patriots were going to win, and they were a field goal away from winning. Belichick could pull off that magic. And on Tuesday, I thought that again when I first looked at these games. Now on Sunday, I'm just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. The only way I see the Patriots winning this game is the exact situation you said. It's Damian Harris is going to have to take 25, 30 carries. Mac Jones only throws the ball 25 times, completes like 70% of his passes for like 250 yards, gets a touchdown or two in there. And they just keep the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands. And maybe a J.C. Jackson turnover in there. Maybe Josh Uche gets in there and gets a strip sack, or Matthew Judon makes something happen. You're going to need a big player or two by this defense, and you're going to need something to happen and you're going to need the offense to be efficient and have 35 minutes of clock. You're going to need them to completely dominate. Like, if they're going to win, it is going to be a boring football game. That is the only way I see the Patriots winning this one. You are not going to want to watch. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be old school. It's going to be Bill Belichick classic football where he just runs it down your throat. You're also going to need a nice game from Christian Barmore and these defensive tackles. So you're going to need to win in the trenches, and you're going to need to win ugly. And that's just, even with that said, just too much talent. With as good of a secondary as the Patriots have, Dalton Schultz is still a solid tight end who's going to be running over the middle. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard are both weapons. Pollard is more of a weapon in the passing game. Trayvon Diggs gives up yards, but he makes plays happen. Like, they still have the best defensive playmaker in football, and the offense is a mismatch too. I just don't see the Patriots winning this one, if I'm going to be honest. The Patriots were a team that I was extremely high on, and I think that's one of my takes that kind of whipped coming into this year. But it is what it is. Chris, I'll go to you one more time on this for a Patriots take. What are you thinking today?
Yeah, I think in the pick'em I did pick the Patriots, but I think right now I can definitely lean the Cowboys. I mean, they're definitely the Cowboys have a high-powered offense, and right now the Patriots secondary has not looked good. They're giving up big games to receivers. J.C. Jackson hasn't been able to step up. They don't have a great number 2 guy behind J.C. Jackson. I think if the Patriots still want to compete this year, I think they're going to have to go and trade for a cornerback. I know they got Shaun, but Shaun really hasn't been playing. I don't know if he's trying to give up speed still or what they're trying to do with him. I think one guy to watch out for would be Avonte Maddox. I believe he's on an expiring deal with the Eagles. If the Eagles feel like they're out of the division race by the trade deadline, maybe the Patriots look at them, see if he's open for trade. He's done pretty good in coverage this year. I think he could be a guy to watch out for. He might get moved depending on what the Eagles decide to do with them. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I think the Patriots running backs have been an issue this year. You obviously traded Sony Michel. Then James White goes down. Damian Harris has some fumble issues. You brought in J.J. Taylor. He fumbled. Ron Stevenson, he's fumbled. Brandon Bolden has been really solid for them this year. But I don't think he's the answer. Again, I think they're going to have to trade for another running back if they really want. I don't know what the answer is going to be, if they want to go for a receiving back, if they don't have faith in Damian Harris, so they go for a feature back like Marlon Mack. I don't know what their answer is going to be. But in this game, I do think the Cowboys, their offense is going to be a little bit too much for the Patriots. I just don't think the Patriots have the personnel to stop a high-power team that has CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Good tight ends as well. 2 good running backs in Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. I expect another good game from Tony Pollard in this one. I think Ezekiel Elliott's a little banged up. He's going to play, but a little banged up, so I think Tony Pollard can get some more carries in there, get some more touches involved. I don't know how big of a factor Trayvon Diggs is going to be in this game. He's obviously a little banged up, might not play, but if he does play, he seems to be a guy that really tracks the ball well in the deep shot plays. But the Patriots have not been taking many deep shots. They've been going a lot of easy routes. I don't know if Trayvon Diggs is going to have success in that. If he gets on which receiver he decides to go on, the Patriots they don't really have a true number 1 receiver. They have a bunch of guys who can catch the ball. So we can't understand how that plays out with who they'll match up on. In this game, I think I would lean Cowboys to win, though, just because I think, like I said, the offensive five hours can be a little bit too much for the Patriots to stop.
Okay, and let's go to the Sunday night football game. We have the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers at home. And Max, these are 2 teams that just go back and forth. I feel like these are just 2 inconsistent football teams in my mind. But who's going to be the more consistent one and be able to come out with a win tonight?
I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not a believer in Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith had a couple good moments last game for the Seahawks in coming in for Russell Wilson, but I'm not sold on him, being a guy that can go out and win games on a consistent basis. So I'm going to have to stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers as much as I think they're not, at anywhere near what they once were as a team in terms of success on the field. But I'm going to have to take them.
And I guess, Aidan, I'm going to ask you this one too. I'm agreeing with Max right here. Geno Smith is not going to be able to go into Heinz Field on prime time and win a football game, in my opinion. Dear gosh, I hope not. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. And I took Seattle to start the week, but I quickly flipped on that. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. They're at home. I'm not going to buy too much into Geno Smith here either, especially against this defense. And, Pittsburgh's defense got a little overrated coming into the year. I don't think they're top tier, but I do see them having some success, forcing a turnover or 2 on Geno Smith. I don't think the Seahawks are going to run the ball too well tonight, to be completely honest with you. So the Seahawks aren't going to put up a ton of points, and that's going to, let the Steelers run the ball a little bit. And I know their run game hasn't been efficient, but it's going to, you're not forcing Big Ben to push the ball downfield in this game. And even then, I still could see him connecting on a 50-yard pass like he did 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, just because this Seahawks defense isn't very good. So I do see Pittsburgh coming out with the win today.
Okay, and let's move on to Monday Night Football. We have the Buffalo Bills traveling into Tennessee, two offenses that have the potential to put up a lot of points. But ultimately, in my mind, the Buffalo Bills defense and honestly just their consistency as an offense is what's going to be the difference maker for me here and why I'm taking them. But Marissa, you're our Buffalo Bills beat writer. If you guys don't follow her on Twitter, you really should. As consistent as it gets and as good as it gets. Marissa, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so what gave Tennessee the win last year was the fact that Josh Allen had 2 interceptions, and then there was a punt return that got fumbled, and Tennessee turned that into a touchdown. Same with the 2 interceptions. Tennessee turned that into 2 other touchdowns. So really, it was the inconsistency on offense. It was a weird game to begin with. It was a Tuesday night game because it was due to Tennessee's COVID protocol, so everything was out of whack. That's not going to be the case this game. Buffalo is a more well-rounded team. They have a great offense to complement a great defense. Really, the X factor for Tennessee is going to be Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry has not been able to perform well against the Bills. Out of the last 3 games that they faced each other, Henry has only rushed for 191 total yards, so that's 63.7 yards per game, which is one of the lowest that he's ever been held to. And he only has 3 touchdowns total, 2 in one of the games, and then 1 in another game, and then 1 game they completely held him to nothing. So I think you're going to see him really be limited, and I'm not really sure what the health is with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. I know that they're playing, but I'm not really sure that they're going to be back at 100% going up against the Bills' secondary. And not only that, but as Hunter said, this Bills defense is going to be able to get sacks. Tennessee's offensive line has allowed 20 sacks so far this season, and we're only entering week 6. So I think you're going to see a lot of dominant football from both sides of the Bills.
Okay, and Chris, just one more opinion on Monday Night Football here. What are you thinking in this one? Do you agree with Marissa?
I like the Bills here. I think they're just the better team overall. The Titans have been up and down this year. I still like Derrick Henry to run first. Derrick Henry is the hardest guy to stop in the league, even against the Bills have a pretty good defense. But I just don't think the Titans are going to be able to do anything in the passing game. That's what's going to come down to, where the Bills are going to have an easy time passing the ball. And the Bills are going to get either – it seems like they like to get Zach Moss involved in the receiving game. They like to get him. And I don't know how big of a game difference Singletary is going to have, but I think they're going to get both of them involved. And they're going to have plenty of targets, whether it be Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, whoever it be in this game, Dawson Knox even. I think their offense is just going to be too much. And I think their defense are going to get a couple stops here and there. That's going to keep the Titans off the board for enough points.
Okay, now just going to get a quick preview of Thursday Night Football, as we always do. The Denver Broncos are traveling to Cleveland. Cleveland 6-point favorites. As of right now, that's a really early line. Cleveland going up against Arizona this week should be a tough game. And Denver going up against the Las Vegas Raiders this week also should be a tough game. So, Aidan, I guess, what are the early thoughts here? What should we really be looking for in that Thursday night game?
Well, first, obviously, as always, pay attention to what these 2 teams do today. That's obviously going to have, altercations on what happens in that Thursday night game. But my early favorite in this game would be Cleveland. Look, Denver, they could be riding a 3-game skid if they do lose this game. I'm sure there will be some motivation there. They'll keep this game at least a little competitive. Maybe could even pull off the upset. I do like Denver a little bit coming to this game, but Cleveland, man, they're so well-rounded. They really are. And I think that's one of those games where they're not going to let up a ton of points to Denver. I like Cleveland's defense in that matchup. So you're going to be able to run the ball. You're not going to force Baker Mayfield to throw it 30-plus times, which I think when that's the case, that's when Cleveland's going to start getting a little trouble, when Baker Mayfield has to do a little too much, especially when playing through this injury. So in a matchup where Cleveland shouldn't allow too many points like they did last week to the Chargers, I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit, stay true to their identity, and they're my early favorite to win this game.
Okay, and with that said, that's going to do it for us here. You heard a little bit of your Thursday night preview, but remember to tune back in next Sunday, 11:30 Eastern, as always. But in the meantime, while you wait for us to return once again, please follow TWSN on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Go to TWSN.net for a lot of our great, unique articles. And also subscribe to the TWSN Patreon page. Betting advice every single day. And you just got to put in a little bit of money, but you'll make a lot of money if you trust us to give you some really good picks. With that said, thank you guys and have a great week.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now.